Yeah, hi folks. So I haven't yet uploaded the videos about conversations with God, wrestling with God, and so on and so forth. I will be doing that in the next coming days, although they would have already been uploaded by the time you've heard this recording. And so, yeah, I've had a rough week. The last week, I've just felt really bullied and intimidated and helpless by a situation in my life and a certain somebody in my life. I've kind of spoken about that before. It's this Nigerian landlord, and it's just been awful. It's just the abuse that I've been taking and whatever it is, and it hasn't yet been finalized. So it's still in the process, and it's brought up a lot for me. Huge amounts of my own past and my own personal traumas, and other times I've been bullied and where I felt sort of in situations that I had no help or support or guidance or assistance, and I felt very alone, felt very abandoned, and whatever it is, and just felt like, again, no support. And so I've had a week of that, of just feeling that, and trying to do the processing of allowing the emotions to come up, allowing the trauma to come up, and the memories to come up, to resurface in a way, and see what it's about. And it's been very hard, it's been very challenging, but of course very important, and it's left me with many questions. And one question in particular is this, right? I'll get into it, but this is the process of it. So not so long ago, I decided to have a bath. Okay, it's quite still early in the evening, which is unusual for me to do, but I've just felt really sort of tired and exhausted, and just needing to enter that space again, and to, if you will, have a conversation with God. Now, before I carry on, I think it's very important for us to realize that some of us are uncomfortable with the word God. We prefer universe. We prefer logos. The mother, the father. Whatever. All different titles and names, and some of us are even uncomfortable with the idea of God. In general, right? As something or other. And all I have to say to that is that we need to get over that. That's infantile, right? That's like, well, I'm not really comfortable with using any kind of words to describe or even entertain such an idea, whatever it is. It's just like, it's just not part of, I just don't want to go there. It just makes me uncomfortable, the idea of God, and it's got so many sort of connotations for me, and it brings up, just bad memories, and confuses me, and, whatever it is. And I'm saying that needs to go. That's like, if that's what's stopping one from having a relationship with God, then they're in a lot of trouble, right? Because I think the only way out of this, kind of, or to grow or to graduate out of this existence, and is to have a relationship with God. And again, it's not on the condition. It's like, you have to have a relationship with God, like that's His orders type of thing. It's just the way that it works, because of the dynamic of it, I find, and it's not that God's lonely and He wants your, or like he's insecure or He's codependent on you, which a lot of religions are about, that God needs your prayers and God needs your sacrifices and things like that, and whatever it is. And maybe that is true to a certain degree, but it's not in the energy and with the attitude that we've been, or I have been, taught in, if you will. And so again, it's childish to I don't know, maybe have high, the archangels, high angels, the angel Michael or something like that, and sort of higher guards, and etc., etc., and not entertain. I mean, that's also fine, but it's not, to not entertain this idea, the notion, and not just the concept, but the energy of God, right? And again, not so it's about worship. It's not about worship. It's not about obedience. It's not about devotion in that way. That's all that stuff we need to sort of just, bury and leave behind, if you will. And so anyway, I'm lying in the bath and I'm meditating, and I'm really going into it, going further. I've got my earplugs in, I've got my headphones on, I've put some incense in the bath, I've got some Epsom salt, I've got a candle going. And I'm really trying to get as still as I possibly can and still the mind. And then, this effort, this intention of bringing up my emotion, and my frustrations, my hurt, my anger, my injustices, let's just say, to this place, to this sacred space, to this temple, to God, if you will. Okay? And I'm trying to bring it. And I just feel this resistance. I'm trying to bring it up, and I'm just being blocked. And I always feel like, listen, pal, this is 5D. You're working in the 3D. Okay? It doesn't mesh. The two don't come together, and there's a divine reason for that. But I wasn't respecting that. I wasn't understanding that. And I'll get into that. I was like, no, this is my beef. Right? I want to be heard. I want to be understood, and I want it to be explained to me what's going on. Why do I feel this way? And I'm just getting like rejected. I'm just getting sort of, don't bring it here. And it reminded me of this, with Terence McKenna when he asked the mushroom, is he doing the right thing with his life? And I can't remember the exact answer of the mushroom, but it was almost like, what kind of silly wussy ass question, is that to bring to me? Or something like that. Like, what's wrong with you? Where's your confidence? I don't know what I took from that is almost like it's disrespectful. It's like, that's your own stuff. That's your own insecurities that you've got to deal with, and whatever it is. Not that the mushroom is all high and mighty, but it's like, how low do you think of yourself, to think that you're not doing the right thing in your life? And maybe it was genuine. Maybe he was just saying, but I think it was more like, the fact that he was, a pioneer of the psychedelic movement and things like that. That's what I took from it, in my opinion, and it can just be used as a metaphor, the story, right? And so many times we ask, are we on the right path? Are we doing the right thing? We really want to know. And that's a sense of cowardness, and lack of courage and self-belief and confidence. And I don't think that's allowed in the kingdom of God, if you want to call it. There's just no space for that. You come in as a lion, right? You don't come in as a sheep, right? You don't come in sort of bent, hunched over in a way, and so on and so forth. And that's tough, folks. And so I'm sitting there and I'm trying to bring this up. I'm trying to, also like my hurt and my feelings, and like kind of saying, look, this is what's been dealt with. Look at my loneliness. Look at my despair, my desperation. And it's just like, don't bring it here. Don't bring it. And I'm thinking to myself, how like unsympathetic, how like I felt rejected almost in a moment, or what's going on here. I just felt blocked. I don't know. I can't explain all of these things. It's just, it's kind of psychedelic. I just felt blocked. And the next thing, my mind starts to race, and I feel like I'm losing it. I feel like, what is going on here? My heart beats faster. I feel like I'm having a bit of a panic attack. It's like, my thoughts again aren't making sense, are racing. I'm feeling maybe I should get out the bath or whatever it is, and I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. And I'm thinking, just keep still. Just keep still, right? Just, hold the fort. And then there's a part of me, this is what happens on psychedelics or whatever it is. When you're having a freak out, it's like, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get away. I've got to distract. I've got to go back to normal. I've got to return. I've got to have the mind thinking or something like that. Cheers. A cup of coffee. I got to, and I can't sit with this discomfort, and, and I'm losing my mind or whatever it is. I've bitten off more than I can chew. It's just too powerful. It's just too like, I've lost myself in this or whatever it is. And I'm just saying, just sit here, because you know where it's going to go, man. You've been down this road many times if you don't just sit still. Just sit still and be present and watch your breath. Return back to the music, the audio, and just calm yourself down. And I take a deep breath and I start calming myself down. And obviously the mind wants to rush, and I can feel the blood in my body just heating up. And I'm thinking, oh shit, here we go, type of thing. And no, just sit, just be calm, just brace the storm, right? And I suppose you get better at embracing the storm the more you face the storm, And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this answer comes to me. That's strong. Like, undefiant. It's unapologetic. It's just like, you'll know when the time is right. And I was like, I felt so humbled. I felt so, like it was such a loud, you know, strengthening for myself. It says, you will know when the time is right. You can't know everything now. You're not at the level, my boy, at understanding. It wasn't my boy, I'm emphasizing it. You're not at the level of understanding yet, right? You're still quite a way to go. There are things that are much further beyond your comprehension. There are things here that are such a great, profound mystery that if you had to know how they worked, you wouldn't be able to comprehend your reality anymore. It would just be too involved, too higher level. You're like a yellow belt and you want to go at black belt level and you want to perform at a black belt level. It's not happening. It's not happening, right? And with that, I felt such humility. I felt like, I'm still registering. This happened not so long ago. I'm just thinking about that and so what does that mean? So then I said to myself, what does that mean? Like, what about all the chaos in the world? What about all, the sufferings in the world? I think to myself, in time you will know. Don't try and understand it to the best that you can. Whatever it is, you can, but don't think that it hasn't got a plan. It hasn't got a reason. It hasn't got a rhyme. It hasn't got a purpose to it, right? And don't think for one moment that your life doesn't have a purpose for it. And you know what? You got to own that purpose. You got to own your own existence. You cannot look and say, well, look at Keith in America, and he's got such a sweet deal. He's got 3 good sort of fellowship people that he's close with. He's got whatever, he hasn't got the South African issue of crime. He lives out in nature, or something. And I look and I say, my life is a stuff up. I've been alone most of my life, right? What I've had to go through most of my life, what I am going through most of my life, and what's with that? Like, what? And then I realized, so I'm getting lost here because there's quite a few things going on, but I realized, take responsibility for your own life. Understand that this is your story, this is your specifics, this is your narrative, right? And own it. It's been lonely, own it. It's been desperate, own it. That's part of this existence. You can't wish it away. You can't exchange it for somebody else or something like that. You can't manifest yourself out of the situation. This is your life, this is your destiny, and this is how it unfolds. And this was designed for you, right? Now, I'm just thinking now, like how the stars was aligned, with your birthday, how they were aligned at a certain time, when you came into this world, when you will go out of this world, or whatever it is. You are on a divine process. You are on this mission, if you will, okay? You are a traveler, all right? And this is your travels. This is your terrain. This is your experience. Yours and yours alone. Nobody else's is the same. Yours is unique completely. Don't look at somebody else's. And this is very hard. You can empathize. I empathize with people that have lost their sight or have lost their hearing or have born with, I saw a woman the other day, she didn't have any arms. I was watching this documentary. So heartbreaking on the world's tallest man, or the world's tallest man in America is like 8 foot or something like that. His name's Igor. For crying out loud, And you think how cool it would be to be that tall. His life is miserable. They say he's the loneliest man on earth, And he's just in so much pain all the time because his legs can't carry the weight. He can't fit into elevators, cars, shopping malls, or whatever it is, wherever he goes. And people just look at him as like he's a freak. And he's just getting taller and taller and bigger. He's got a tumor on his pituitary gland or something like that next to it, and so it's putting pressure. I could be completely wrong about that gland, and it's secreting hormones all the time, so he will not stop growing. And there's nothing they can do about it. And one of his questions, one of his thoughts, he says well, why did God just bring me here to suffer? And I thought, and I took his side, and I still take his side in that way, and it said it just seems so cruel, so unjust, He says, what will make me happy? If I knew that I had a closet of clothes that, that I wouldn't grow out of, and that it would be easy for me to get hold of new clothes. I had a pair of shoes that fit me, and I wouldn't have to worry about shoes. There were 3 things: that I could have normal transportation, And there was one other thing that was also just so simple. He says that everybody takes for granted, and you feel so sorry for him. And you feel so sorry for so much in this world, and that's great. You feel the pain and the suffering of others. But then I think we almost judge it in a way, and we just say that's unjust. And what I'm saying was, in the psychedelic moment, in this high states of consciousness, in this state of prayer that I was in, I said, each to their own. Each and everybody has their own story, their own narrative, their own journey here, their own circumstances here. Each to their own. You cannot understand it. You can try. Don't force it. And almost don't judge it in a way. Just let it be. Okay? It's part of a very much a high divine plan. Have some bloody humility. And it was a hard smack. Like a smack, It was like, when you're on psychedelics it turns you into you're in an infantile position. What do you call it? You're wrapping your arms around your knees. You're lying on the floor. You're just crying for help, help me, because you just feel so obliterated, right? You just feel so broken apart, so confused. There's much that's going on in there, obviously. But you're humbled, there's no ego anymore. You're like a little child, you're like a little infant, and you're lost at sea, and you got this little boat, and your rudder just fell in the ocean, and the waves are raging, and the storm is breaking, and the lightning is hitting like a few yards away from you, and it's like the sharks are swimming, and you just feel so vulnerable, you feel so exposed, you feel so confused, you feel so scared, and it humbles you. And I just think if we had psychedelics, we had tribal, monthly ceremonial takings of psychedelics, how much the ego would be suppressed, and how humble people would be, if you will. And so it brought me some comfort. It brought me some comfort in that way of saying, look, you don't know the story of your life. You don't know. This doesn't. You need to be dealing with you. You need to be working on you, right? You need to be doing your own healing. You need to be saving yourself. And this was a big thing. This was a big thing for me, massive, massive. Because it's like we want Jesus to save us, right? We want God to save us, right? Or we want a guru to save us. We want the shaman to save us. Like when you're on psychedelics, I've seen guys like, hold into the shaman, save me, help me. Well, more so in documentaries that I've watched. Whatever it is. It's like, Jesus save me. No one's going to save you. Nobody is going to save you. Not mom and dad, not Krishna, not Jesus. God himself not going to save you. You're going to be assisted and you're going to be guided, but only you can save yourself. The responsibility lies on you, regardless of your circumstance. And I think that's what God wants from us. That's what God, has put us here to do, is to be courageous, to be lions in that sense, or whatever it is, to own your experience, own you. It's hard this, but like I was kind of bringing it to God and saying, look what you've dealt me, God. Like here it is. I kind of take it back. Kind of take it back. Like I don't want it. Like, type of thing. It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's like I said to my father. Even just the gifts that he's given me, or just anything, and I say, yeah, take back your abuse. And it's not like that. I'm not saying it right, but I'm almost am. Because it's like, well, God, you kind of set me up this way. It's your doing. It's your, it's your doing. You created the heaven and the earth. You created, light and dark. You set me on this trajectory. You decided for it. Like, and I have a beef with it. Like, come on now. I have a beef with a lot of things. And in a way, it's like, well, make peace with your beef. That's just what you can do. You be patient. So it's a big thing. Be patient. Be humble. And whatever it is. But don't bring that here. Don't bring that here. And it's like, I don't know, maybe in human relationships we can look at each other and say, look at my suffering that you've caused me, and I want an apology or something like that. But because people, we do it unintentionally, but what we're saying is, are we saying to God that you did this unintentionally, you did this unconsciously? Like what you did, look what you did, this isn't fair. This isn't fair, God, come on now, take responsibility. Own up here, type of thing. And it's like, what? What are you saying? What are you saying? And that's the toughness of God. There's another thing that we think God like is our friend in a way. And it's not even the right word to use, but like that God doesn't have discipline. God isn't disciplined in a way. It's like, again, if you go to church, if you go to synagogue, if you go to temple, mosque, or whatever it is, and God is always favorable. He or she, whatever, is always kind. Is always my son, my daughter. I feel you. It's very sympathetic. It's very understanding, and it is understanding. But like at the same time saying, you're here to grow up, and it's painful. And that's your job. And God doesn't mince his words with it. Doesn't play around with that. If you come like that, you'll just be smashed to smithereens in that way. And again, maybe it is out of disrespect, but I don't necessarily think it's about disrespect. Like we're trying to disrespect God here by bringing this. We're learning, and that's what it's like. Sometimes when, with animals, like you got to respect them, right? When somebody once told me about a dog, like the first time if a dog comes up, don't pat it on its head, right? Or something like that. Maybe pat it on its chin so it learns to trust you or something or other, or whatever it is, or maybe further down on its back. Don't go for it. I don't know. The idea was that the dog can get to know you so you can show that you're respecting the dog. I mean, maybe not, but like these lion, not tamers or whatever it is, it's like you respect the lion, right? And you respect it. You don't come up to it like, its friend or something like that or whatever it is. You respect it, or like a snake. You don't just you play willy-nilly with the snake. You respect it, right? You understand its boundaries, right? You understand its power, okay? And in understanding its power, it'll teach you a lot about yourself. It'll teach you humility. It'll teach you to have your own power, right? It'll teach you to not step out of line. And that's where I think maybe religions have gotten it wrong, is that's the idea of God. It's like, if you step out of line, I'll strike you down and kill you, or whatever it is, or you'll burn in hell type of thing, which is not the case. I don't think that's the situation. It's more like respect my rules, And again, not because it's like this... a narcissistic parent, or government, respect, obey. It's saying, look, if you break my rules that you break will break you. There's just no way about it. They're there, there's guidelines. They're there to not get yourself in trouble, right? They're not there to punish you, but they will punish you if you break the rules, okay? But so we've interpreted that as we're only doing that so we can show God how obedient we are a lot of the time, how subservient we can be, how sort of humble, how we can get down on our knees, and grovel and say, please, find favor in me, or something like that. And I'll sacrifice my only son for you, or something, and things like that, folks. That kind of sacrifice, which is not what God is about at all, I think. Anyways, I'm pretty tired, I'm pretty spent, but it's spiritual maturity that we need to grow up, and it makes it really you see, because a lot of the time we just look at this world and we say, what a muck up, what madness it is, what chaos it is. It's like, really, like the dark side is absolutely winning. It's just what's going on in the world today, the lack of empathy to human suffering, morals, ethics, values, whatever it might be, and we look at it, the sacred, right, and we look at it and we think to ourselves, this is out of hand, this can't, and this is infected, like God is abandoned. My mother, I was speaking to her, she was being a bit tongue-in-cheek about it. She was saying to her husband, she feels that, God has said, okay, to humanity, or she was listening to a talk where the guy said, God says, okay, I'm walking away. I can't deal with you guys anymore. You want to be too wayward, you want to do your own thing, I'm walking away, I can't anymore, right? And taking a vacation, a break, that kind of idea. And maybe we look and we say, well, that must be the case. Or I don't know, maybe the devil, well, he says, like in Al Pacino in The Devil's Advocate, maybe God threw the dice too many times, right? He's a gambler, he's a chancer, maybe he just stuffed up here. That kind of idea. And we can really believe that when we see things that are, are so twisted, are so inverted, are so, backwards, or so dark. And we think, yeah, maybe just the devil is, I don't know, how many points in, and God hasn't even, the devil's crossing the finish line and God hasn't even started, or something like that, or missed the start, something like that. And most people believe that. I think most people feel that. Most people are more comfortable, being associated with the darkness and the light. There's no question about it, because it just seems like, the darkness is winning. And maybe it is, but that's still part and parcel of it all. Okay, when we truly understand this, it's really profound. It's really big. It's really overwhelming. I mean, it really is. But and then we think, I often feel this way, like, oh well, spirituality's bunk. Consciousness is bunk. It's like it's all just new agey. It's all just trendy. It's all just like, oh, I'm spiritual. Oh, I'm just like, into yoga. Oh, I have my mantras. I know about the chakras. Whatever it is. I know about conspiracy theories. It's all just trendy. It's all just like different groups of society, whatever it is. There's nothing more than that. There's nothing more profound than that. There's nothing mystical about it or existential about it. It's just like, it's whatever's trendy, right? It's whatever's going. Put a feather in your head, in your hair, and call yourself a shaman or something like that, and that kind of stuff. And you just think like it's all like religion. So it was all just fake flowers. Like there is nothing more than that. There is no essence. There is no spirit. There's nothing. There is no soul. It was just a fantasy type of thing, and it didn't last long. It was a Santa Claus, idea or something like that. It was all just make believe, right? And that's what it looks like, transhumanism on the horizon, and whatever else is going on. It feels like whatever it is, or, God took a vacation or was busy on a project somewhere else. But it's not the case at all, folks. And when we get into these mindsets, that's the time that we need to go into prayer. That's the time when we need to go into meditation. That's the time when we need to humble ourselves, And we need to be quiet. We need to be still. And we need to go into the sacred space, the inner temple, the inner sanctuary. And visit that so those illusions can be burnt away and we can be reminded, right, of the divine plan of it all. And we should do it often so that we don't become too infested, and too intoxicated by the dark energies, of this third dimension, in a sense, And that's my word for today, folks. It's big, it's heavy, it's profound. You know, it's much to carry. It is. It's really much to carry. But we carry it. We must. What else? What other choice do we have? And we should carry it proudly. You know, we shouldn't carry it with our head held low. You know, I feel like not me. I don't want to do it. I don't want to own up to it. We have to, folks. We have to. It's the only way up. You know, in a way, it's the only rightful way. Anything less, I don't even think about that. You know. All right, folks. Well, take care. Thank you for being there and taking the time. Time to love you and leave you.